Okay.
Does anyone have any issues with that? We probably will have to get it posted next week. Or we could maybe post it tomorrow if we get all our notices put together. Otherwise, we get it posted Monday. I can work with Nancy to get the typical language we use drafted up.
Hey, all I do is copy what Linda did.
That's what I figured we would do.
Do you really want to do it that soon after the holidays? Because if people weren't motivated enough to run, maybe they need a little more enthusiastic speak at them. It's just a thought.
I'm hoping that maybe people will make community service their New Year's resolution. And then as they're thinking over the holidays about how they can contribute more to their community as a very good person, they may be inclined to fill out that application and turn it in by New Year's Eve so that they can make their New Year's resolution.
Or it's a possibility that a moment was just missed for someone and they didn't have an opportunity this last time, and maybe there'll be a couple other people that will want to go for it this time.
Or
Or does anyone have issues
full,
with the 13th? Let's just get it on the calendar.
Okay.
Oh, Timey, mic's not working. I don't see a mute sign though.
Try turning your sound up on your computer or your volume.
Mic. All right, issues with my mic earlier too.
You could also feel free, Timey, to type in the chat your comments if you can't get your mic working.
You got your hand up if you want to go. You're on mute too, though.
Well, that sucked. I want to say the ACC has several open positions. So anyone looking to help join the community and get some things looked at as far as improvements and things for people's homes, I'd greatly appreciate anyone coming on board, sending in an application and helping us out to get this stuff done. I'd really appreciate it.
Okay, we'll get some announcements put together for all the NNE, ACC, and the board vacancies. Then we'll get those put in the e-blasts and get some announcements on the websites, and then yeah, we'll plan on January 13th for board interviews for candidates for the board. And yeah, that should give us plenty of time to meet our 30 days. Of having the position open or that we need to meet. And it'll fill the position pretty close to 60 days. All right. Any other announcements? All right, hearing none, we'll move to property owner comments. Looks like we have Linda. Supposedly on her vacation, just couldn't stay away. Her retirement, is that what it was, Linda?
No, it's getting over my broken back. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I have some questions more than anything else. I was kind of expecting to see financials for September this month, and we haven't seen them. Seeing as how you're only meeting once, I'm wondering, but nothing's been posted since August, so I guess my question's more for Kim. When are we going to see, because we're, September and October, I guess.
Yeah, at the finance committee meeting, we went over August, and generally we present the financials at the second board meeting. So what I will do is I will talk to Joel about getting them posted, probably between now and the 25th. He'll have those posted. But generally he does the presentation at the second meeting of the month. But I will talk to him about getting them up on the website.
Okay, thank you. I just was curious because it's like I say, normally it's something that gets done when you only have the one meeting for November and December.
Yeah.
My next question is, I read in the views that El Agave is going to be closed. Sounds like for a long time. I sent this question to AJ originally, quietly, when it was first kind of talked about. It sounds like now at least the first 2 weeks of December is just going to be tearing stuff open. Traditionally, December is the month that we do Breakfast with Santa, which is a big community thing. And I'm wondering if the board has any plans for holding it somewhere else. Think that El Agave is going to be open. I'm wondering what that is.
Yeah, we'll have to have some discussions with crews about that. We could look at some alternative locations if that's feasible. But yeah, we do anticipate a couple weeks for the remediation work to take place and doing some of the tear out, and then we'll have to have some contractors in to put things back together. So it's a little undetermined, the extent of the work that we need to do at this time, but it'll all kind of come into better picture here as we start to do the remediation work initially.
Okay, I just, in order to kind of put it all together and get stuff sort of planned, it's a lot of planning. And I just, I would hope if you're going to cancel it, you do it early rather than waiting until the last minute and realize you just can't do it. My last question has to do with, we always talk about we have enough help in the office, and yet there was one day, I think it was during registration and stuff, the office closed early and it was closed Tuesday, just kind of with no notice. And I wonder, are we getting staff hired so that this isn't going to happen? Because it's unusual that the office is closed unless there's a power outage or something like that in the building.
Can I answer that?
Go ahead, be my guest.
I'm asking AJ, can I answer that?
Yeah, I don't care. We just had some illnesses that we had to deal with.
That's exactly it. There's been illnesses, and so there has been staff in the office. What it is we have a policy that if there's only one person in the office, they keep the window gate down and locked. And so the notices were put up so that community members could call if they needed something. They can call, they could communicate via email. So we never, on both those days, there wasn't staff except what the thing that you're talking about. One person was sick, the other person had to leave because of a child. And that was at 2:45, like literally right when you were coming in the door. And I believe one staff member was in there, but we have full admin staff. So just thought I'd reassure you, but there is a lot of sickness that's been going, circulating through the building right now.
Maybe expand on that notice a little bit so that they know that, it's just, I know right now, thank God it's the slow time, but there's people that try to bring in their requests for ACC and everything else. And I know you can put stuff through the Dropbox there after hours, but there's only so much of that. But it's nice to know that somebody's there. It just was kind of unnerving because I don't remember ever seeing that nobody's in the office. And I didn't know we had a policy that if there's only one person in the office, they don't open the window either. But that must be something
we've been working
all
with,
have to look up.
We've been working with some of the temp agencies with the staff that we have currently to and that's been something that they've been wanting, and John was on vacation all last week after the AGM. And so we're also we're also bringing in an environmental planner here. We'll be starting on Monday. So that'll be an additional person in the office, and someone there to support the ACC moving forward.
Okay, thank you so much for all your answers.
And Rachel's in there on and off. Yeah, so yeah, the office is actually pretty busy. I also want to just quickly jump in there too, because these are the only two temp staff, and they are converting over to be direct hire. So these are permanent positions. Like I said, all of the open positions are filled at this point in admin. Just thought I would share that.
So I actually have a question. I don't know if you can hear me now. I switched over to my phone because my computer wasn't working. But, being new to the board, why are we, when we go on the Sudden Valley website, why are we not directly putting any positions available on that? Because it'll say no openings, and I know there probably has been some.
We've been using some recruiters to bring people in, as we don't, the executives are not really in a position to do all of the hiring work associated with that. And with the admin positions, we've done some temp to hire to make sure it's a good fit for all the parties involved, both the employee and the association.
Yeah, just kind of curious, since I know a couple people that were hoping to, we're kind of looking to see if there was anything available, and they were going, it says nothing.
So there's a couple of things too regarding that. We have to advertise internally before we can advertise outward. So we have to offer any open positions to existing employees. We have to do that a week ahead, and that we haven't had a lot of open positions other than those more senior executive positions that AJ's discussing that kind of require a recruiter. But those other positions, the staff we've gotten admin have been pretty steady for a while now. And then the other positions, as they became open, we offered to existing staff and they took it. So that's the other reason you're not really seeing that.
Okay, yeah, and I had to switch over to my phone, so I know I missed part of that conversation.
Josh?
So I haven't looked at that recently. I mean, I'm not actively looking for a job, but one thing that we could do there, because I mean, it's pretty standard for some businesses to have a job placement or a career field. And if they don't have anything active, it'll say, there's no active jobs. But what we could do is have a contact, like, just, hey, if you're still interested, we don't have anything, but send us your information, and then have a little resume upload or something like that. So that's one thing that can kind of help with that issue. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Kind of nice for like local members who might be looking for a local job to, if there is something that they might be able to do, to be able to work with Sudden Valley or for Sudden Valley.
And if it gets to that point where it's like, we're past that hiring internally part, we can, also put it in the e-blast and other stuff like that. So that's a good thing we're going to be doing this website next year, hopefully. So we can implement some features like that.
Yeah. And the e-blast has been great.
Thanks.
All right. Any other property owner comments?
Doesn't look like there's any other hands raised.
All right. We will move on to new business. First thing we have is the 2021 Agm Election Certification. So I'll pass it over to Nancy if she wants to say anything about it.
Oh, yes, I do. The technical part went beautifully. Unilect did an excellent job, and I would never want to have it any other way. I remember when we did it ourselves, and I do not recall ever seeing an election where there wasn't some sort of argument about. And we've had Unilect 2 years, and that hasn't happened. So I'm very pleased with that. On the other hand, the turnout was 28%. And that is truly dismal for an election. Last year, it was about 50%. Now, I realize there was nothing exciting going on because the real controversial stuff didn't happen till a week before the election and everybody had already voted. Not that it really could have done anything on the election, but it would have gotten people interested. All I saw was a great well of boredom. So I'm really wondering what we can do next year. And I think the answer is more candidates.
Well, if you could end COVID, that would help a lot to get people more motivated.
Oh, well,
It's all part of being stuck in the house.
I'll put that on my list of things to do in my spare time.
You should get that done, please.
We also had some discussions with our parliamentarian John Berg about having like a meeting of the membership prior to the AGM to debate the issues that are on the AGM. It can help streamline our AGM so we don't necessarily have to have discussion then at the AGM. You know, he basically said 95 to 99% of the people have voted by the time floor voting happens at the AGM. And so at that point, debate is pretty pointless because it's not really going to affect anything. And he had suggested having, you know, which we have our budget town hall meeting or whatever, but that's not really like a open debate forum for the membership to, you know, have people present one side, people present another side. So we were talking about trying to establish an event like that, which would be an extra meeting of the membership, basically, to do that.
I support that.
Hopefully that could help drive, you know, some more discussion and just kind of create some more buzz around voting. You know, and that could involve sending out a postcard to everyone to notify them of the meeting, which is just some added reminders that the AGM and voting is happening and things like that. Kim?
Yeah, I support that because I feel like then we could have a true discourse and share ideas. There was an initiative that didn't pass on the regarding members in good standing being able to vote. And I think that would have really benefited from having a community discussion, and we may have been able to give people some more information to support that initiative. But I do support that if we do change the voting and have a forum beforehand for next year.
Keith? Then Nancy?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. It was regarding, and I know it's a big issue regarding that transfer fee. Like, I'm part of the board or a member of the board. I heard nothing about it till the night before the board meeting. So to me, that was just kind of an odd thing. We supposedly voted on unanimously, and I know my vote doesn't count. I don't have a vote, so, but still, it's like there was no discussion, no anything. I don't know how that happened, and I know it's after the fact, but I'm just throwing that out there. I was just kind of shocked that I didn't even hear about it until social media and the after the AGM. So
You missed the meeting.
something, yeah, I get that. That's what I mean. It was the day before the meeting is when I even heard anything about it. It's just kind of interesting.
We've had conversations with the legal counsel. I'm not sure if you weren't at one of those meetings or,
Yeah, I don't know. It was the only two meetings I missed since joining was I guess right before the AGM and the AGM. So I don't know. It was just interesting. That was it. I just wanted to say that. So having I guess some pre-discussion prior to the AGM, I guess would be good in the future to talk about these things.
Yeah, that was a policy issue, and yeah, that we actually had met twice regarding that in closed session with the attorney. I can find the dates if you need me to. Just to give you some assurance on that.
For those who think their vote doesn't matter, 4 more yes votes would have passed measure 3. It was that close.
we have 4 people who didn't sign it, if I remember correctly, from the election certification.
And Nancy, measure 3 was the member in good standing initiative. I don't have.
No, that was measure 5, I think. Measure 3
6.
was the proper purpose instead of association purpose.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Do we have any other discussion on the election certification?
Well,
Well-
just that I misspoke. Measure 5 was not the people who aren't in good standing can vote. That was measure 6. Sorry about that.
Okay, well, I move that the board accept the 2021 AGM election certification.
Second.
All right, do we have any further discussion on that? All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, moving on to committee discussions and appointments. So the goal tonight would be to get our standing committee board members established, which are those committees in the bylaws. And then I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking tonight, and we'll probably talk some more at the next meeting and start to try to develop some goals that we would want to have and additional committees that the board may consider creating for this year, and what tasks we would like those committees to accomplish to help support the board and the organization. So the standing committees in the bylaws we have our Finance Committee, which Kim is our chair of that as the treasurer. So then we'll be needing a second board member for that. We have our Document Review Committee and our Long Range Planning Committee. And I think that's it, unless I'm drawing a blank. ACC and NNE will appoint their own members when we get people to apply. Am I forgetting one? I feel like I'm forgetting one. And then
ACC, right?
what was that, Kim?
At ACC?
Well, those are, the ACC will get, just like the board vacancy, they'll accept applications and then appoint people and then bring them to the board for approval.
No, but I mean, when you were saying you missed one, was ACC,
Oh.
did you say ACC? Those are the 4: Finance, Document Review, Long Range Planning, and ACC, right?
You got
And
ACC.
then
But we don't, the members vote for the committee members of ACC. and I mean, normally at the AGM. And then the open positions, then the committee chair will bring them, they'll take the applications and then bring them to the board for approval. I would really like to push everybody to consider ACC. It's a really important committee, and I also think we as a board need to consider, you know, helping out with that some too, because I know that there's been at least 3 meetings where they didn't make quorum. I realize everybody's really slammed, but that is literally one of those core committees that has to function well. So, I mean, drum up your neighbors, get them out there, or do it yourself. But we're going to have to make sure that that committee has support, so that they're not meeting quorum.
Yeah, I agree. And we are also have a new staff member starting Monday to help support that committee. And he should be able to provide a good amount of expertise in the area of permit review and construction inspection and everything like that to help support the ACC. Keith?
Yeah, I had a quick question. You know, currently we have to have 5 members to meet our quorum because we asked for 9 to be on our membership. Is it possible that that could be reduced to say 50% of our existing membership? So right now we have 5 is all we have. It's 5. So all of us have to be there or there's no quorum. Could it be reduced to 50% of the 5? So there's 2 or say 3 of us would have to be there in order to have the meeting, or is that something we can't change?
So it's in the bylaws, written a certain way, and so it would take a vote of the membership to change the way it's written in the bylaws. But under certain circumstances, like we can, and we would kind of, Nancy and I have briefly talked about this, is on document review, is trying to talk with the attorney about what are our options to either do a policy or some type of resolution until the next AGM, and then let the membership, vote to actually implement it, properly into the bylaws. And so that's something that we'll go ahead, Nancy.
If the slots aren't filled, they don't go into your quorum calculation. It's only if they're filled. That's my understanding of Roberts. And we have a parliamentarian, maybe you could ask that, but my understanding is if you've got 5 out of your 9 filled,
Yes.
then your quorum is based on 5. You don't have 9 members.
Okay, so Keith, we'll talk, like what she's talking about. We'll talk with the parliamentarian. AJ can reach out to Richard, so maybe we can fast track at that answer, so that we can be sure that that we do the right thing.
Yeah. I was curious because like last year or the year before, I wasn't chair of the ACC then, but the rule was then it was 50% of our members, and we held meetings without 5 members. So I was curious how that happened, and we were able to do it. So I'm wondering if we could do it now. So we'll find out, but we'll talk about it more. But yeah, I was just curious because it would certainly help, especially when people right now, like they're snowbirds or whatever, you got a couple going to Arizona for the winter, and stuff like that. So it's a little harder to have meetings, let alone get people to go out and actually see the applications, what people are asking for, and we can verify and approve. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
We'll figure out that answer tomorrow. We can talk to Richard and just get 100% on that. And I think I agree with Nancy. I thought I remember it being that it was just 50% of the people that were currently on the committee. But we'll make sure of that, and hopefully that'll help at least move things forward in the interim.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the right thing. Not that I should weigh in on that because Nancy's the Robert's Rules person, but I'm pretty sure we went through this a year or two ago with quorum issues and what happens if you don't have enough people. So from what I remember, it sounds like that's the right path, Nancy.
All right. Well, as far as the committees go, you know, just to kind of move things and get things started, like I would love to chair the long range planning committee again. I started as the chair two years ago, worked with Brian last year. I helped chair and spearhead the strategic planning team's effort last year in conjunction with long range planning. And we have our long range plan to finish this year, and I would like to be involved in helping get that finalized up and presented to the board and then the membership this year. And so that's kind of, you know, my preference of where I would like to pitch in.
Are we voting? I don't know exactly what the.
I would vote
procedure
yay.
is.
I'd be down with that.
I would too. I
Vote
just
yay
didn't know
with
what
that.
we were supposed to do. Sorry.
I will be honest, I did not do a lot of homework before this meeting, in that I don't remember exactly what we did last year. I think we kind of.
Did we do?
I think
I
we
think
may
we
have
had a- we had a
I think we may have
nomination process.
nominated people,
Yeah.
kind of similar to how we did the executives, maybe. You know,
Well-
and then went that route.
How about
if
I
I-
nominate AJ Tischler to the as the LRPC chair?
I second.
All those in favor?
Whoops, I can't.
All right.
Hey, looks
Well,
like a
easy enough.
yeah, majority.
So then we would need a second board member to participate on the LRPC as well.
Ooh, so beautiful lady.
Like to be the second board member. I started my service with Sutton Valley on long range planning and then had to step away when I got elected to the board. So, but that is I do love assessment and surveys and strategy. So throwing my name in the hat, or throwing my hat in the ring.
That's where I was kind of thinking too, the long range. Because I've been around a long time and I kind of like to be part of moving forward, seeing where we've been. So.
How many of us can be on there?
Well, you want my opinion?
If we don't have enough community members to fill it out, then, you
Right.
know,
It's
I think.
two board directors, and if there's open seats, then one of you could be on there as a community member.
We do have at least just to announce, make a quick announcement. We do have at least one community member who I believe will be joining the LRPC as soon as we are sure that he has been vetted. So.
Yeah, I saw your message, Brian. I'll have to get with Jessica and Deb and see if they've gotten that. If not, I can follow back up with him and just make sure we get a copy of that.
Sounds good.
Are we voting
Josh?
or nominating?
So, I mean, part of me would say split the difference here and have Timey on there, and then Kim, since you're running finance, you know, in case your time is a little iffy, you know, but at least go on there as a third director. That's just my opinion.
I know. So can we vote? I have a different opinion. So I'd like to actually take a vote.
Kim or Timey? Is that what you're saying, Sonia?
Yeah, and the reason I'm saying that is because I actually was on there with Kim and Timey. I think you would contribute greatly. I also know what work is needed this year, and I know how Kim is about keeping everybody on task and making sure, because we have to. Long-range planning is key to how we're doing our 3-year cyclical budgeting process. And Kim understands it really well because, like she said, she was on there and helped develop it. And so we really have to hit those dates to finish it this year. So I think, though, personally, because I was on there last year as a member, that's why I said you can, I think board directors can be on there and a board director can be on there as a member. So I'm certainly not saying don't be on there. I really would like to see somebody that understands that process to be on there to help AJ so that we can make sure it's implemented. So that's my concern with that.
Yeah, Kim is really great on the long range planning for sure. But Tommy, I wouldn't think that would exclude you either. I think that we need to consider what's best for the holistic situation of the board, the composition of this board, right? So that's something we can think about here, or vote on, or whatever it is.
Okay, well,
I will say it might make sense to have Kim on long range planning too if you're going to be working on the budget. If you're on the finance committee, so that might make sense. And
That'll work.
Since you've been involved in strategic planning for these years too, so that might be the edge there, I think. And
well, I would nominate Kim Harris to be the second board member on long range planning.
I second if I have to do that.
I'd nominate Timey.
All right, let's vote on it.
All right, so
I need
just
a
like
second.
at
Right?
Second.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Just like at the executives, we vote on Kim. If she receives majority of the votes, then that would be the end of that. And if not, then we'll vote on Timey. All those in favor of appointing Kim as the second board member to long range planning? All right, that is a majority of the votes. So Kim will be our second board member on long range planning.
But I still want to encourage Timey to be on there too. I really wasn't trying to discourage that. I just wanted to make sure Kim was on there. So just want to be real clear
And
about
I
that.
want Timey to be on to join us as well, because I think we need more hands on that committee.
I think, let's say, if there's room on the committee, why not we could just make a statement right now and have Timey be on that committee, and that would make sense.
As a member, yeah.
As a member, yeah.
Yep.
Well, is anyone opposed to Timey being a member of the long range planning committee?
No, I just
All right.
voted for her.
At least somebody likes me.
Oh,
Oh, we like you too.
We all like you, Tommy.
like you, Timey.
All right, well, then that is, hearing no objections, then that'll be, we'll have you as a community member on long range planning. Moving forward, we have second board member for finance committee. Kim, as our treasurer, is the chair of that committee automatically. We're obviously always looking for people with a financial background to be on finance. That's part of the bylaws for committee members and stuff that participate. And so, but yeah, I'll just kind of open the floor to discussion on that.
I nominate Sonia.
All right, I would second that. I know Sonia's got a good financial background. She usually participates in our finance committee meetings this year, even though she's not on it.
As a community member.
As a member.
Yep.
That's right.
Comes in like Linda, always with the questions.
And sometimes answers.
Yes.
All right, do we have anyone else? Hearing none, then we'll have Sonia be our second board member on the finance committee this year. All right, moving forward, we have document review. Last year, we had Sonia chairing that after Justin left the board, and Nancy was a member of that as well last year. So
that I would like to chair that committee again, and I would like to ask Nancy to be on it. So document review is a committee of the board. So it's not like one of the other committees where you're talking about a chair and then an additional second board director. It is a committee of the board. So if any of you want to be a part of the document review committee, just speak up and we can move that forward.
Well, what's involved with the document review committee?
So we review.
wow.
Well, I mean, like obviously you're reviewing documents, but
As of right now, they got two major components that we're kind of working through still. The last year's board had asked for a comprehensive board policy manual, basically a policies and procedures manual that would become a part of our board orientation and better outline kind of all the roles and responsibilities of board members. What are all our board policies that everyone needs to be aware of when they join the board and everything like that. And we're also working to put together and review comprehensive financial policy manual as well. And ideally we're going to be, working to get through those here, in the near term, particularly the financial policies. It'll be a big part of bringing a new GM on board. We want to give them clear guidance of how we expect them to kind of run the finances of Sudden Valley moving forward. And we have a number of policies that are old and dated, haven't been looked at, maybe aren't actually policies. There's one policy on there that's just like a motion basically. So those are two big things for the beginning of this year. And then I'm sure the board may have some things come up and it'll evolve a bit as the year goes on. They're also a big part in bylaw amendments being proposed and everything like that as well.
Yeah, and those things are in process. We started them already. And so they're just like, we also redoing all of our contracting and procurement policies. And so that also triggered us needing to do a complete reworking of the way our vendor contracts are done. And our procurement. And so there's a few layers in there that took a while, took us a couple of months to get that in place. And so that's why I'm kind of wanting to let's finish what we, that push that we started, because there's quite a bit that we've been working on. But like I said, Nancy and I were on there. You certainly, anybody else that wants to join is welcome to join.
Well, I think I'd be willing to help out with that.
Yay, timing.
All right, well, since we have a bunch of stuff kind of in the works that we've already been working on, I would nominate Sonia Volt to be the chair of document review.
I would accept
Second.
it. Sam, do you want to, you mentioned at one time about being on there. Are you interested in being on document review, or you just want to think about
Slightly
it?
waved there for a minute. Yeah, that sounds like quite the challenge.
Okay, because I think it would be good if we had 4 people. It'd be helpful. Don't you think, Nancy?
I think it was a committee of 3, but
Okay.
I
Well,
don't remember.
no, it was 4. It was 4 because
Was it?
Justin,
Okay.
me, you, and Joel Dobbins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that works.
If I was to be there, would it be like leering or looking over shoulders, or would it be possible I could contribute?
I think you could contribute. That would be our
It's a lot
hope.
of-
It's a
The
lot of
leering
arguing.
scares me, but
Yeah, me too.
So
It's a
generally,
lot of reviewing, kind of wordy documents a bit at times, at least for these, policy manuals will be. The bylaw amendments is a little bit different animal than policy creation, obviously. But yeah, I think that's kind of the general nature. It's a lot of like draft some documents and then review it, red line edits back and forth, have discussion about it. Where do we set our contract limits at? I think currently for an operating contract, anything under $10,000, the GM doesn't have to come to the board for approval. So is that appropriate level that to have set? Should it be more? Should it be less? That type of thing, getting all that stuff into one package and a comprehensive kind of manual, and that financial policy mixed with the board manual policies and procedures would be kind of the backbone of the board orientation, so that, when new people come on board, they have a clear understanding of like, this is what we hold the GM accountable towards, and this is what we hold staff accountable towards, for financial things. And this is what we hold ourselves accountable for like the board policies and procedures and things like that.
so just to be clear too, just for anybody's not familiar, these things are all done. First of all, we originate them and work on them, but the attorney reviews them. We don't make the final decision. The other thing is then on any of the finance policies or anything that impacts the association financially, then those go to the finance committee for review. They may or may not come back to the document review committee. They may go to the attorney, or the finance committee will send it on to the board for the final vote on them. So there's a lot of eyes on there. It just it originates with document review it's tedious, but it's kind of a little technical.
If y'all need help, I don't know, I spent years editing people's dissertations and things. So happy to do it. I'm a great editor. I enjoy it. I'd be happy to work on the document review committee as well. So
Nancy?
Yeah, this year, well, actually next year, we will need to rewrite the Elections and Nominations Committee manual because of the changes in state law. And that goes from entity to document review normally. And that's really where my interest is, in that manual, because that will take a lot of time with the entity committee. And I'd like to be sure everybody understands why we did what we did.
That's right. I forgot about that, Nancy. It's quickly put proxy voting out of my head after the AGM.
So where are we at with this? I feel like we're in a document review meeting.
Yeah. Does anyone have any objections then to Sonia being the chair? And then it sounds like, I guess all those in favor of Sonia being the chair then. All right. And then it sounds like, are there any objections to Nancy, Sam, Timey, and Brian contributing in document review as well?
Sounds like we're going to have some fantastic documents.
We better.
Well,
Some fantastic arguments.
an army of document reviewers.
It is an important committee. We are, governance and policy making is what the board, should be doing and setting. So it's a big thing. And there's, I encourage all of you in the meantime you can go to Sudden Valley's website, resident resources, Sudden Valley policies, and you can see the dire state of our policies that have not been reviewed really for a number of years, and see how needed, some fresh eyes and continuing some of the work that we've already put forth. So All right, well, we got everyone on that one, and that's our standing committees. So then I just kind of wanted to have some discussion tonight about, you know, what sort of ad hoc committees we would like to create this year. The typical ones that we've had are Parks and Trails, EPC, Communications. You know, I think, you know, Josh has been our communications chair the last couple of years, and they've been working diligently. I know he's got a bunch of work that he's been working on the website to try to do some redevelopment there this year. And I'm sure he probably has some other goals that they've kind of started to set and discuss this year or this last year for this following year. But just kind of wanted to have a general discussion about, you know, one thing in the past, it's like we create these committees and we want them to be productive. We want to make sure they're doing something that helps the board accomplish, you know, some of the tasks that it has to do throughout the year. You know, as part of our new planning process and our strategic planning effort, we want to make sure we're, you know, setting goals and creating tasks for these committees that help us, you know, meet those things that we've put in motion already. An example of that is the website. We have that in our budgeting plan for next year and as part of our strategic planning to redevelop that. So like that would be for communications committee, a goal that we would continue on, you know, from last year's committee to this year's committee, you know, and just making sure we have, you know, it takes a lot of time and effort to put all these committees together, host the meetings, create agendas, create minutes, do document creation, or whatever may be needed as far as actual work goes for these committees. So we want to make sure we're productive. You know, last year we had a number of chairs resign, and it really puts the board in a tough spot because a lot of us are already committed to other committees, and we don't have the capacity to step up and take on chairing additional committees and things like that. So we just want to make sure we're productive with staff time and everything too. Sometimes we have staff at various committees, which will be, you know, stuff we'll have to kind of discuss moving forward, and whether that's needed, and it'll kind of depend upon, you know, what each committee is working on. But those are kind of the three we've always typically formed. They could be segmented a little bit more, or we could, if there's other committees and stuff too that we think would be beneficial to our strategic planning efforts. You know, I kind of want to have that discussion, want to get people to start thinking about it. And then at December's meeting, we'll probably talk about it a bit more again. And so that'll give us some time to formulate some additional thoughts and stuff on this as well. So I just kind of wanted to have an initial discussion at this meeting about it. So I saw Kim's hand, then Sonia's hand.
I was curious if there's an opportunity for the community to weigh in on some of these ad hoc committees to get some of their input, because if we get community input and there's a great desire in something, then you also have your built-in volunteer base, right? Because that's one of the things that we're struggling with, is trying to get people to step up for committees. And if people are feeling like there's a particular committee that needs to be organized for our community, then there would be an interest of people to step forward and participate. So has there ever been any opportunity for the community to weigh in on some of the ad hoc committees, or is that strictly something that the board just comes up with?
Usually the board who comes up with it. They're there to, you know, help the board accomplish, you know, just like finance committee or long range planning. You know, the idea is to have committees that help us, you know, meet our goals as an organization and things like that. So it's not so much about like create a committee just because, you know, a bunch of people want to talk about something necessarily. We want to make sure we have good, solid things that we're getting from the committee, you know, that are going to be beneficial, you know, especially if staff are going to be involved or anything like that. We want to make sure we don't want to be wasting anyone's time, basically. Committee members, board members, staff, all the like. So,
Okay, understood.
Sonia.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that, with my hand raised, because that's been one of the ongoing problems or miscommunications of what these committees are for. And committees are to support the board and the work of the board. They are not just because a community member wants the committee. You know, so we have a planning process, and we have a 3-year planning process that we put into place. So my suggestion would be that everybody review the actual budget document that that we put out at for the town hall, that actually spells out a lot of how our budget and our plans for this next year relate to the strategic priorities that were identified by the strategic planning team, which was the long range planning committee, the board, and our key staff members who worked over several months to come up with those priorities and the new mission and vision. And so we've worked a long time for that. So these committees, we need to utilize them to support that and implementation of those things, and to help move the strategic priorities forward. If members want to have member committees just for social events or for other things that they're, you know, they have a mutual interest in, they certainly have organizational committees that they can create, but those are social committees made up of the membership. These are board committees. These are committees created, I shouldn't say they're board committees, but the ad hoc committees literally are created for a purpose. Their charter will state what their purpose is. And when they've met their purpose, they don't exist anymore. And even if they don't meet their purpose, they cease to exist on the day of the AGM the following year. No committees extend past 1 year based on what our bylaws say. So I just want to be real clear about that. And I also want to just throw this out, because I personally, after watching, I wasn't on the board all of last year, but I saw how difficult it was when we had 2 directors that quit, and then trying to keep these committees running when we're all spread so thin is impossible. And so I'd like to make sure that whoever volunteers to chair these committees is actually understands the commitment, and because this is, it's really disruptive for a lot of reasons. The members put a lot of the volunteers that are members of those committees just feel like, well, I just wasted all my time. It hurts their everybody's heart when that happens. And so I'd really want everybody to understand how important they are, but let's don't just because that committee existed in the past, it doesn't mean it has to exist this time. If we can't actually do the work of that committee, and it's not really beneficial to our current planning process, I don't see any reason that just because it existed in the past, that it has to exist moving forward.
So Josh, then Brian.
So speaking of our natural environment, I know there was some things with parks and trails. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but I would strongly advocate for Brian Cope to heed that initiative if that's the case. I would volunteer him, and I would also volunteer Sam Shahan, because I think he would be perfect for it as well. That's just my thought. I would do communications again. I don't think we need to vote on this stuff right now, but I just want to say that I think Brian would be a perfect fit for that committee. And yeah.
Brian?
Oh, thanks, Josh. Yeah, I mean, if I would definitely be willing to fulfill that role if we decide that committee's useful. On a side note, we do have in the strategic planning documents discussions about sustainability, and I'm not sure that long range planning, as I think I showed last year, there are issues there, right, with sustainability, and I think I would almost recommend an ad hoc committee also, which I would chair, relating to sustainability issues and exploration of quality of life issues here in Sudden Valley, as well as the water quality issues as well. So those are some things I'd like to think about, but those could perhaps be folded into a Parks and Trail scenario too.
Sorry, sustainability in what way?
Watershed. Our greatest asset are green spaces, right? Our two most wonderful cherished amenities according to surveys. The last survey we took, right? Where two of the most favored things were number one, green space, number two, the lake. So we want to preserve, I believe, the health of the lake. It should be our duty. We should be as sustainable as possible. We are not a sustainable community right now, right? But we should strive to be as sustainable as possible. It just makes sense. Oh, also, I mean, it does impact. I mean, quality of life issues impact us. There's a plan right now to build 26 new lots, and that seems like a major development. And so, just to ask questions about that, how did that come to be? It sounds like something so large that it is going to affect the quality of life and perhaps mental health of certain residents, right? So let's.
But how do you stop building on their lots?
I'm not saying we should stop it. I'm just saying that questions should be asked. Perhaps ideas, could be generated for landowners as options, things of that nature.
What option? I'm sorry, I'm just a little confused, because if people decide, I mean, there are more lots being built on, what questions can you pose to these people? Do you want to not?
Well, so there's the idea, Tammy, of density reduction, right? So perhaps we need to have a talk as a community as to whether we want to allow landowners to, take their property, basically not build on their property and sell it to the county, perhaps, or some willing buyer. If we could get fair market value for if that seller, but that's something we have to talk about as a community, right? I think it's an important thing to discuss, right? Every time a new home is built, sediment is going into the lake, right? It's a disturbance.
Not every home, because not every home is right up against the lake.
Everything flows downwards, Tammy.
Well, I know, but you can't. Does Sudden Valley have the funds to now buy that lot at fair market value? And then can we guarantee that dues are not going to go up if we start buying lots at fair market value?
That's a question for the future, Tammy. I mean, I don't have all the answers. I'm just saying it should be something that we can talk about as a community. And
so can I make a suggestion here, though? Because I think one of the things is timing that might be helpful, and I think it'll help all of us. And AJ could probably send this out, but our budget kind of talks about each of these strategic priorities again that were identified. Long range planning didn't do that in a vacuum, right? We did the community survey, and it was based on what the membership felt was a priority. And so we, as a team, came up with these based on input from the membership, input from our staff, input from the board, and so you can see that sustainability is woven throughout this process. And then it actually isn't just the issue of trees and everything, but it impacts us, via the stormwater. We're in the watershed. There's a lot of aspects. There may be grant money to pursue, but it's a lot bigger issue than just that one tiny thing.
Well, it's odd as well that the parcel of land that's being sold for $1.9 million, I believe it was sold in 2016 for $200,000. How did those lots suddenly become buildable? And that, so I think as a community we kind of need to interrogate that. I mean, it would be nice to know, right? It would be nice to know because it affects the entire community, even though it's not technically our property, right?
Kim, I saw your hand.
But I'm totally happy to be the chair of the Parks and Trails as well.
Yeah, this is not a committee, ad hoc committee suggestion, but more of a suggestion for something that is infused throughout all the committees and is one of our values for the community. We talked about diversity and inclusion. And so I would volunteer my lens as someone that has a diversity, equity, and inclusion training and consulting business. I would volunteer my lens on committees who are considering policies and you want to have an extra set of eyes on your policies and practices to make sure that they are equitable and inclusive. I think that needs to be something that is infused throughout our committees and groups and not a standalone committee. So, and I throw that out there. Like, for example, if document review is going over a policy and they want to make sure that they're not leaving anyone out or using any language that might be exclusive, I would be willing to look it over with that lens and help the committee in that sense.
That's a good idea. One thing, kind of piggybacking on what Brian was just talking about a little bit and, moving away from the lots or whatever, we do have a question that we developed for the survey, which we're still working on getting out to the membership here about, putting density reduction back on the table again. That's obviously not a simple concept. It takes funds to buy lots. But like Brian said, there are other entities who are willing to contribute to that, being the city of Bellingham, Whatcom County. They have stake in the watershed as well, particularly the city of Bellingham, being the watershed as their entire city's drinking water source. But one thing that I kind of brought up last year that I don't think it really got a chance to gain any traction in the Parks and Trails Committee, but I do think it could be folded into kind of some of the concepts Brian was talking about relating to our green space and all of that. I'd really like to see a committee help develop like a volunteer program for the board, like not like, we're going to put on some volunteer days, but like a volunteer program that the board can implement with staff to get community members in to help with various things. The one thing in particular last year that I saw was trail work. We do have a trail, people from the Parks and Trails Committee who go out and they do trail work, but we don't have it advertised very well. We want, like, I would like to see us put together some sort of program that we can advertise to the community that happens on a fairly regular basis to help us maintain some of our trails, to use that volunteer labor force. I think some of the same concepts could be used towards some of our green spaces and things as well. In the strategic planning, if I go back up to sustainability, we have Firewise and Clean Green, which are programs that, the association puts on to benefit the private property, aspects of the association. But what sort of thing could we put together that would benefit all of the lots that have been removed from the tax rolls that are now green space as part of the previous density reduction efforts, and dealing with some of the, any of the fuels, making sure we're following proper, guidance from, professionals when it comes to, any work we would do on any of these lots, but making sure, we are, doing work that would help with, wildfire mitigation, keeping our forests healthy, and everything like that, surrounding all of our built environments. I think that would be something that would be really beneficial for the community. And if we had a program, a documented program that we could implement with, standard operating kind of procedures that go with it, and, like a calendar or like a long range or a yearly calendar that gets built. And like, these are what we host events on these days every year, and if we build these things and market it through our communications committee and get people out there, we have people who are probably willing to help with that stuff. There's a lot of people who don't want to volunteer on a board or a committee, but they're more than happy to pick up a shovel and, or a tool and do a little bit of work. Part of the budget that we put together and part of the 10-year capital roads, drainage, and pedestrian program that we're, going to be getting underway here in a little while, that the last board approved, was building like a connected trail system, so there's, we have plans in the works to build more trails. I think the building of trails should be supervised, by professionals. That's not to say we can't use some volunteer labor here and there, but we definitely want to make sure we're building everything to a proper standard, especially with that. It's supposed to be more of an interurban style trail, that's not like a primitive hiking trail. And so we want to make sure we're meeting standards like that. But I think there's lots of opportunity to try to pull additional volunteers in for the people who don't want to be on committees, but do want to participate in, helping with more manual labor stuff in the community.
The Boy Scouts have been involved in previous years as well, so they might be a good resource.
Yeah, so one of the problems that from talking with staff about the, unfortunately with volunteers and the trails, because they're not coordinated, in the planning process, so that, everybody will put all this work into putting a trail in, and then there is no plans to maintain it moving forward. And so I think that's one of the things AJ's talking about, because if you have like, it's coordinated and somebody's overseeing it, then we can make sure that we have the staff that can maintain it, or we have a plan for volunteers to maintain it, because that's happened. I have heard this, from even before I moved to Sun Valley, where, there used to be a trail there and it's overgrown, and so, but, it's like the goal is to have these ongoing trails that'll exist, into the future, and we maintain them ongoing. So just need to get that teamwork together.
That's really true, because, volunteers are great to get it done and started, but, people move, people have their priorities change, and to expect them to maintain it for years, you can't expect that. So, but if you can get it started, and maintenance would be maybe a great idea, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and our parks staff, that's who would should oversee it. There has been some discussion with the county in the past, because they have a biologist, on staff. And then they also have the ability to offer, natural plantings and that type of thing in some of these areas, like AJ's talking about, that's green space and maybe there's too many alders and they're falling. So we could take those down, plant something else that's suitable. They'll still give the same canopy cover, but you know, it won't be so unsightly. So there's a lot of opportunity, and where it can also be visualized by the people that live in that area, you know, so it's really suitable for those sub areas and everything. But again, yeah, I love the idea of the trail system. I hate that, you know, it's like, oh, there was a trail there. I'm halfway through it now. I'll need like a machete to get the rest of the way. So hopefully we can put that in the past. Right?
Just put the machete at the beginning of the trail. And if people go in the trail, just tell them to just work it through, and then everybody can contribute as they ride.
I guess we need to make sure that, you know, if we're going to start a trail, we got to make sure that local people want that one, because there's probably a lot of areas that they're not going to use. So not to put the time and effort into ones that the local people don't want to use anyway.
Also, yeah, but professional, and that's a good point, Timey. But yeah, and as well, and to add to that is professional trail building is needed. You know, and we have a trail behind our house that may be running into private property, and it's very steep. They could have used switchbacks that would have made it much easier, and so we can maybe reroute that. That could be part of what we do, but if we're able to do so.
But these are all kind of things we need to think about, you know, what are these tasks, you know, these goals that we would have for these committees that would be formed. And, you know, if, you know, a committee can work on, you know, a few different aspects, you know, of things, like if somehow, you know, we can, you know, I definitely, you know, if the community was in favor, you know, of density reduction, and that's something that they seem to overwhelmingly support on the committee, I could definitely, or on the survey, I could definitely see the need for an ad hoc committee to help, you know, work on that. You know, that the board is not going to have the time to do that as a whole. So if we could have a committee that works on, you know, putting together, you know, multiple proposals of how we would fund these things, or various entities that could help us, you know, fund that effort, you know, and things like that, you know, I could see that being, you know, a benefit. And that's kind of exactly what we're trying to get with these ad hoc committees, is making sure it's like, oh, we're gonna do this task. This is a big effort. You know, we should have a committee to help support us in that effort, help gain, you know, additional community input, you know, bring some people with some skills and expertise in that area to the table, hopefully to help, you know, guide some of that and everything like that. Sam?
Yeah, I'd just like to throw in a little key piece of information needs to be thrown in with every one of those. I'd like to see density reduction. It sounds like a wonderful thing. The only thing that pops up in my head is the money that comes in for every lot that we budget for, that comes in, and every one of those things may not be much per month from each lot, technically, but putting them all together starts to add up to a chunk of change similar to the upkeep of various trail systems. So every one of those things would affect the budget and have to be considered in the future, just as long as that's part of the discussion.
Yeah, money would be a big part of the density reduction discussion for sure.
Buying lots
Keith?
is expensive.
Hey, just one other thing I wanted to ask is, someone brought up the emergency preparedness committee, right? And I didn't know if a board member needed to be on that, but I know it has something to do with the radio station. I think 1610 or something here in the valley that they put out emergency alerts on and stuff like that. Is that something the community could do on their own, or does it have to have a board member on that committee?
That ham radio group.
Yeah,
They actually do meet and are independent. And then a lot of those were also members that were on the emergency preparedness committee. And then there's the CERT, like what is it? Citizens Emergency Response,
yeah.
something.
Team, I think.
What is it? Team? Yeah.
Team, CERT.
Most of them are all of the same people. We've had some initial conversations, talking with the fire chief about maybe offering that type of thing there at the firehouse, and and encouraging community members to do it, in a venue like that where they are actually dealing with the responders directly, because there seems, like there's a lot we heard this last year of members going, what about evacuation plans, or what about this, or what about that? Well, the truth is we depend on the Whatcom County and the fire department to those are organized, they're in place, but we coordinate with them, with the emergency, the Whatcom County emergency dispatch or whatever it is. And so those communications go on, but if community members want to volunteer as, civilians, I think it would personally, I think it would be better if we set up something to where they're actually doing it with oversight of the fire chief, rather than looking to us as the HOA to direct that. It just feels like if it's emergency preparedness, it would just be better suited that it's run a little differently, I think, than the way it has been.
Okay.
If a board director wants to chair that committee, that's the other issue. That committee hasn't existed since October of 2020. So yeah, that's the other issue. Nobody is really.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think letting the fire department handle it, we're not experts. None of us are experts on that. Let them do it. We can help them, like, with communication if they want to get something out to people. But, I don't know how to evacuate people. You probably don't. They do. They do it. This is their job. And I think leave it to the experts.
Right. And there are community members that their background and just their desires, they're attracted to that. And by all means, we don't want to say, no, we don't care about that, but I'd rather the opportunity that it's somebody that actually is a professional, and that it's, they're taking proper direction.
Yeah. And I know two people that, either with the fire department here locally or in other fire departments. But, if we let the experts actually give the advice, then we're not responsible. Because they said, well, you said, well, yeah, but I'm not the authority.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think you're right. We fire department and the experts give the direction.
Plus, it eliminates any of the politicalness that comes out of so much of this stuff here. So I like that idea.
I think that's a, kind of an important point too, Timey, is if we have experts and we can rely on those experts to give us, the guidance that we need, then, we're not taking on any undue liability as an organization or the association by like directing people to do something that maybe wasn't 100% accurate, maybe it was 90% accurate, but all it takes is, one person to have an issue or, something worse, and next thing you know, it's all, well, we were told by the HOA to do this. And the fire chief's like, well, I wouldn't have done that. you know, and they do have plans. There is the CERT team, which is essentially an emergency preparedness committee
Mhm.
that Whatcom County, you know, and they do actual exercises and drills and things like that, is my understanding. And so maybe we just need to figure out a way, as far as that goes, to bring that more front and center to the membership, and maybe the HOA can take some initiative in helping, you know, get membership to that CERT team for Whatcom County. I don't know if there's like a limit to how many people can serve on that team or not, but that could be, you know, something that we do, you know, and then maybe that CERT team comes and presents at a board meeting or something like that to the community, helps prepare some documentation or things like that that we, you know, can then share on our website and things like that.
Yeah, and put it in the views, you know, that join the CERT team, or, you know, the CERT team can have a little column on where to go. You know, there's lots of ways you can get that information, just, but leave it to them.
Well, I think these are all kind of good discussions. You know, I don't think we need to make any decisions tonight. I can send the charters that we put together last year, which is basically just a board resolution. Then it outlines kind of the procedures that the committee has to follow for meeting, and who makes up the committee and how many people. And we can, you know, at the next meeting, we can work on, you know, establishing some of these goals and tasks, have a better, you know, we can spend some time over the next month. We'll have a month before our next board meeting pretty much. So we got a fair amount of time to kind of think about things. And, you know, if, you know, Brian, if you have, you know, thoughts for like environmental or sustainability, you know, things, and you have specific tasks that you think would be beneficial to helping us meet our strategic plan, you know, write them down, get them in writing, and then we can kind of, you know, we can all kind of do that as well, and kind of compile all of that stuff. And then we can have some discussions on how we sort those things out into various committees, you know, and what that would all look like then. Sonia?
Thanks.
Yeah. So before you send the existing or the last year's charters, so there was changes in 2403 that take effect January 1st. So we have to make changes to how we are doing committees to reflect some of those requirements. So I would like to, and I'll reach out to the committee, so I won't put everybody on the spot, but I'd like to call like a document review committee so that we can maybe draft up or put a draft together of at least a generic charter for any ad hoc committees, so that, you know, I just don't like putting bad information out and then you're having to correct it after the fact. People usually remember the first thing they hear. So I'd rather that we do it correctly the first time. I mean, it can be a draft, but I just want to correct those and make those changes first. We can get that done before the next board meeting, though.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that's an issue. I mean, that's just kind of the formalities of the charter and the stock boilerplate language that we, you know, kind of implemented last year with these. But I don't see that affecting like the thought process on goals or tasks or things like that. So yeah, I think that would be perfectly acceptable. I don't have any issues myself with that. Does anyone else have anything or any ideas off the top of their head at this moment that you'd like to share while we spend the next month kind of mulling things over? And
I have one thing to say about parks and trails. You may want to consider splitting that apart. That may also be an option, because the way that it occurred this last year, and it seems to happen often, is that there's a Parks and Trails Committee, and then they spin off a trail subcommittee. The problem with that is that they're operating without a quorum, and so everything they do is basically null and void. That's been an ongoing issue because they cannot operate without no committee, according to the charters, can hold a meeting. They don't have quorum unless they have at least one board director present. And you can't appoint, the chair of those committees has to be a board director. That's been an issue. But I don't want to negate how important this seems to be. Those committees are usually full. The Trails Committee is usually full of volunteers. And so personally, I think that should be a committee all by itself. But I'm just throwing that out there as a suggestion.
All right. Well, yeah, I think at next meeting we'll have further discussion on the matter, and we can start to, once we kind of formalize some of those goals and tasks and things like that, we can start to have discussion then on chairs and second board members for those committees. That way we have a better idea as board members what would be expected, and what sort of things you'd be working on. So you're not volunteering, for something you're not aware of at the moment. I think that's important that we have, passion about the things that we're working on. So moving on then, if I'm not hearing any others, I think the last thing we amended to the agenda was the free library at Gate 5. And Brian, this would be next to the I can't remember what it's called now. The food box.
Yeah.
Blessing box.
The little free pantry, or I guess blessing box.
So here is, I'll share my screen of what Brian sent over. Here is a picture of the front of the what was built. Looks like pretty standard free library box. And
I believe I think they stained the front now too, because that side view looked, I haven't seen it yet in person, but I think they've stained it so it's all the same color now too. But, yeah.
I like that mid-century lean.
Is that top so that it's waterproof? It looks like
Yes.
that material that's on top. Is that some sort of corrugated?
Yes, that's what it looks like. Yeah, corrugated metal.
Did they fill it with food?
Well, it's going to be filled with books.
This
A
is
little
a free
free library.
library.
Yeah.
This library is not the blessing box is for food, and then the free library is for books. Then, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Very nice.
And that's the back of it with additional protection around the wood, so it keeps.
And we could
glass.
also. I'm sorry, AJ.
Oh, go ahead.
No, we could also check. I could check with them. They may be willing to make a matching little free pantry as well. And so our little free pantry probably could use an upgrade. So.
Sonia.
So I don't know who is in charge of that little free pantry. But I would like to lodge a complaint because every time I literally spend so much time cleaning that thing out, and it's like, I can't believe that it's full of expired food or half-eaten food. I literally take a trash bag down there every time I go, and it's I don't know if I hear other people say that doesn't go on in other gates. I don't know if it's the location of this one, but it just seems like no joke. Every time I go down there, I'm like, really? There's like a half-eaten box of crackers in here, And,
Well, the
you
good
know,
thing about that, let's not jump ahead then. The good thing about that is that this library is that the books won't go bad.
well, also my thought is the other aspect. I don't know who the person is that did that, and so I would think that we'd have to find that out if you're thinking. I don't disagree. I think they should match in some way,
we can cross that bridge another
complement,
time, I guess.
and so I think you more than likely. I guess my thought is it may be more of a thing of actually staining or painting to exist in one, so that they work together. You know what I'm saying? Rather than take it down and replace it. I don't really know. Because I don't really want to start looking at a bunch of cluster of, boxes over there every time I drive into the gate. So it would be nice if they did complement each other in some way. I don't like the one that's there right now, obviously, can you tell? And but I do think I like this color, and I think it would look really nice. I think we need more natural. I'm not quite sure how come the blessing boxes don't have to follow the ACC colors that our homes have to follow. But it seems like that should be a requirement, is that they have to stay in the color palette also, maybe.
And only yellow foods go in there too, just cream corn. All right, can we move this along? I think it looks great. It looks really great. It's cool. I would totally get a book out of there.
Well, I'm serious. I will only vote for it if we can stay in that color palette. I'm really not joking about that. There's like these boxes are like red and yellow, the other one. So if we can change, I would like to start seeing those things match the natural environment if we're going to be putting them up. I wasn't joking.
It's made out of wood.
The other one is red and yellow. And so if we're going to vote for this, I'd like the other one to also actually match the natural environment.
Well, we need a motion first of all.
I think we're going to have to do a little legwork on the other one before, we know who built it, and, make sure we just, don't go just tear something down necessarily.
I'm not saying tear it down. I'm saying
I don't think they would be opposed to fresh coats of paint or anything like that if it's needed on the box.
That would be like saying I'm not going to vote for this unless you guys buy me a pizza.
Well, because I have to drive by it every time I go into my gate, and it's like going to start looking all cluttery, kind of junky if they don't match each other and look well. And I'm not being picky, and it might sound snobby, but it looks junky right now, and so it's like it doesn't have to look like that. I'm just saying this is really nice. It looks like it matches with the natural environment. I would like the other box to also match with the natural environment. And that goes with one of our strategic priorities, which is natural beauty. So
beauty is in the eye of the can
I
holder.
think you just volunteered to figure out who built the last one and to just talk with them about a fresh coat of paint. That's what I think.
Or I'll go to the store and just buy a fresh coat.
Here you go. You painted yourself.
I'm
Nobody.
going to get the color wheel from Keith.
I feel like the little free pantry belongs to the community, right? So nobody
That's
really
what my
owns it.
thought
The community
is.
owns it, so I would assume that we could make a decision on it. But can we just vote for this to approve this at this point in time, and then
I'm comfortable with that, and then
Right.
figuring out a plan for the blessing box as well.
I
think it-
one thing here, the ACC and our policies, we don't allow a corrugated roof on anything here. And that's a corrugated roof. Hey, I'm just saying, that's one of our policies, right? No corrugated roofs allowed on sheds or anything, whether it's clear, anything, metal, plastic, it's not allowed.
And then when we tear it off, we'll say, oh, it's not waterproof. All the books are getting wet.
I'm voting for sticking with the ACC rules. I don't know, man. We got that in place.
The
for a
ACC
reason.
hates literacy, guys.
Oh, God.
Headline. Brent's gonna put it in the paper.
All right, it's late.
all right. Can I make a motion to approve the little free library and to be was constructed for free, right? And to be installed in Gate 5.
Seconded.
All right, thank you.
Do you have
Tim.
those precise coordinates, Brian, for AJ?
Where
All right,
is
no,
is
The
it by the
posts are
playground?
approximately 4 feet long.
Are they currently by the playground? Is that where the
That's where the
like
box is.
behind the
beside
mailboxes by the playground kind of thing?
Can we just say in a reasonable spot, but close in the proximity near to the little free pantry, perhaps,
Yeah,
or another
Sounds
suitable
good.
location?
I think.
That's
Yeah.
the motion.
Do we have any? And that was seconded. Do we have any concerns about? I guess my only concern about is this is my engineering brain kicking in: digging holes and utilities.
Yes, digging holes. Do we need maintenance to help us with the digging of holes?
There's nothing over there. There is a disc golf, like a basket that's near there. So there's there's a couple of holes that have been built, stuck, but it's back into a natural area, kind of. There's nothing there.
Should we have Darren help support getting it placed and
I think
put
that
in
would
place?
be great if that's a possibility.
I think it would be good to have a staff member partner with the community member on the location and putting it up correctly and
Wonderful.
sustainably.
Agreed. Do you want to amend
Thanks,
the
Kim.
motion to add that, perhaps?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Amend the original motion to have a little free library installed down in Gate 5 in the proximity near the little free pantry, and have Darren, one of the maintenance workers, supervise the placement of that box.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on that?
My only question, and I'm just thinking about it more, is I'm getting kind of serious about it, is that, so I just denied a couple shed roofs that had corrugated, that were corrugated. And so now we have the Sudden Valley Community Association putting out a box with the corrugated roof on it. And all I gotta do is take a picture and go, this is what you guys did. So why can't I do it on my shed? I'm just putting that out there, not saying, hey, I'm opposed to it, but I'm just saying this is the kind of stuff that we could face as the ACC.
Yeah.
Well, this is Sudden Valley property, right?
Right.
No,
but-
I get that. It's Sudden Valley property. So that doesn't make a difference. Doesn't matter. It's free.
He's saying we're making a statement as a board. Are we supporting our rules and regs and the ACC restricted covenants or not?
It's not a big deal to change that little roof on that thing. I'm just saying, guys,
we-
I mean, this is something that kind of all of a sudden I was thinking, going, wow, this is kind of a serious thing. This could come back. Well, you denied my shed roof. How come this is okay?
We need to be consistent.
I agree.
That is one of our core values. Could we maybe talk with them about putting shingles on it? Or I guess, what are our options as far as roofing goes? I'm not totally up to snuff with the ACC.
Yeah, shingles, black, gray, brown, is totally fine. That doesn't even need to go through the ACC. You can do that on your house right now.
What about a flat piece of aluminum?
Yeah, so we just did a greenhouse right now. They did polycarbonate on that. That comes in different colors, but that's getting a little pricier. This kind of thing, I could see wanting to do, the cheap and easy thing, and shingles would probably be the cheapest thing. It's pretty small, I don't know.
How long has this corrugated roof ban been in place, Keith?
Yeah, I want to know about this. Who has beef with
That's
corrugated
interesting.
stuff?
Oh,
Yeah, that's a weird thing.
That is, I don't know. I don't know how long it's been in place. I just know it's in our ACC policies.
I mean, corrugated roofs make perfect sense out here. It rains all the time. Like, why? Who in
Okay,
the
well-
right mind would ban that? That doesn't even make sense. Can we change it? Let's
This
change it.
association did that.
Let's make a plan. I'll add that to the motion, and we'll change. We'll do our best to change the ACC provision.
I would like to.
Or I'm not
I
voting
would
for
like
it.
to make an amended motion to place this little library at the lower Gate 5 near the mailboxes, near the food pantry, and to have it adhere to the ACC color wheel, and roofing regulations so that it shows that we actually support our rules and regs that are currently in place.
Yes, but the whole corrugated roof thing doesn't seem to make sense at all. That's just like, why? Anyway.
The world is weird.
I
Dwayne.
second
I second
Cody's
it.
amendment, and I want to go to bed.
Anyway, yeah.
I think it is probably a good idea to kind of, follow what we require other people to do.
Absolutely. And I
you
figure, I think that people should be able to put corrugated roofs on their sheds. That's just like ridiculous, man. I'm sorry, Keith. I know you're following the rules, and I appreciate you bringing it up because I think it's
This
a
is
relevant,
the
it's a
trouble that
relevant
Keith
point.
has. You're
We'll,
like
we'll
the
hear, we will
perfect-
hear about it. I'll talk. How about this? We can table it for a minute, and I can talk to the neighbors. And you want to do it that way?
That might be good. Just see
All
what
right.
they say.
I'll
and
see what they say.
Just kind of explain the, the scenario to them. And then we just want to be use the word consistent. Like Kim
It's very
said, we want to be
generous
consistent.
of them to build it.
Yeah.
We're
Can
told,
we-
all the
I think,
materials and.
is there anyone opposed to it being placed, under those circumstances?
Yes.
No.
Why don't we do that? We'll amend the motion as stated, to comport with ACC requirements, and so we don't have to. I don't have to come before this body again, and we can, we don't have to discuss this again.
And it'll be placed with the assistant
Yes.
maintenance.
With
Okay.
Darren. Yeah, the maintenance for sure. Yeah. Does that make
Okay.
sense? All right.
Second.
All right. So the motion on the table is to place the little library next to the little food pantry under ACC guidelines and with the support of Darren. All those in
Thanks, everyone.
favor? All right, that passes unanimously.
Thanks, folks.
All right.
Thanks for your
we
concerns, Keith. Appreciate it.
That is the last agenda item for the board. We'll move to the last round of property owner comments, and then we'll call it a night. Any property owners that would like to join us and make a comment, you can click the raise hand button at the bottom of the screen. Looks like everyone's in Zoom and not phone call. So
Josh's hand.
Josh, I saw your hand go up.
I just want to say that conversation was so silly, but at the same time, it was great because I think that's what a lot of people expect to be talked about in an HOA board meeting. We've had a lot of challenges over this past year, and I think, it's just great to have something like that kind of float by, as ridiculous as it was. But thanks, Keith, for looking out.
Point.
And I just wanted to say again, there's a craft fair on Saturday from 10 to 3. I'm going to hammer this into everyone's head because you guys should all come and check it out. We want to get a lot of people to go through there and buy some local made goods. So yeah, at the
Sorry,
dance
what was
barn,
that
8
again?
Barn
What's
View
on
Drive.
Saturday? I didn't hear that. What's on Saturday?
Oh, let me check my calendar. I think there's a craft fair in Sutton Valley at 8
Oh,
Barn View
craft
Drive.
fair. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
We should
It
all
is
go.
awesome. There's so many vendors, and there's
How many vendors do we got?
painted. Huh?
Do you know how many vendors we have?
Whatever the COVID limit is, they maxed out. I think that's 2. No, I'm just kidding. There's like over 20, I believe. So yeah, come check it out. Support your local community artisans and everyone who makes crafts and soaps and pictures and all that good stuff is going to be there. So yeah, 10 to 3.
All right. Any property owner comments? Raise your hand now, or we will move on into the evening. All right. I'm not seeing any. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
9:04.
All right. All those in favor at 9:04. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
And we'll see everyone second Thursday in December as our next meeting. So enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday break and think about those committee ideas.
Eat lots of turkey.
Good night, everyone. Thanks, Rachel, for
night.
hosting us.
Good
Thanks,
night.
Good night. Thanks, Rachel.
Bye.
Have a good one.